Support for People of Interest comes from George Foreman's lean, mean, fat-reducing grilling machine, asking you to please throw away your current Foreman grill and buy a new one. Seriously, you've had that since college and you got it used from your aunt. Come on already.
Thomas Richard Harrison is set to stand trial this month for what law enforcement officials everywhere are calling the most brazen act of criminality in history. Harrison has dedicated his life to committing every possible federal offense in the United States, from mail fraud to murder, and he has very meticulously documented each crime. While this seems like an open and shut case, former ACLU attorney Roderick Sullivan says, not so fast. He has not only agreed to represent Harrison, but is also entering a plea of not guilty, on the grounds that Harrison's actions are covered as protected speech and that he was actually performing. Roderick Sullivan, welcome. Now, Roderick, you are defending Harrison on the grounds that his performance art, that his crimes are actually just some large performance.
Actions. He is an actor and he took actions. They're the same root, Ryan.
Oh. Fair enough. Some of these crimes, I mean, they
Actions.
Actions. Some of these actions, I mean, you know, he's committed murder. You know, if you could just give us a detailed look, well, we don't have time for the full list, but what are some of the highlights you'd say?
Well, they opened, as you will, with some character establishing. So simple things, you know, he's a hard-scrabble youth, so petty larceny, thievery, mugging, roughing people up, that sort of thing, sure. Then he crosses the threshold, you see. He took his first life. That was a change for him. And how did that change affect him? That's the real question, isn't it?
It is. Mm-hmm. How did it change him?
It turned him into a person who took many, many more lives.
What is his motivation in these? I mean, you know, he starts murdering people, but then he starts trying to he becomes very completist in his actions.
Indeed.
What was his motivation to be so thorough?
Well, I think you get to a point when you're an actor where you want to do things that are new, things you haven't done before, things that challenge you. You want to feel things you haven't felt. You want to feel things that maybe nobody has ever felt, and make other people feel those same things.
Right, and some more obscure federal offenses.
Sure. For example, he participated in what is known as an unlawful exhibition.
Oh.
This is when there's several things that you can do. One is throwing balls or rotted fruit at a person for the enjoyment of yourself and the ridicule of your target.
Okay.
It can also mean engaging in an act of endurance which lasts longer than 8 hours.
Yes.
He combined those two. And he threw rotten tomatoes at a poor, poor puppy dog for 12 hours one day.
So that also covered animal cruelty.
Indeed, that was a threefer.
So he's very thorough. Going through his notes, did anything surprise you?
You know, I hadn't worked with a lot of actors before this. I was more of a straight-laced legal type.
Sure.
He really opened my eyes to the sort of discoveries you can make when you take things one step at a time and let things affect you in the moment and then just take the next natural step. And that's why I think what he's doing is really something that anyone can learn from. I think it could help anyone, and that's why I want him to go free so he can continue his work.
Right, because there are a few offenses that he's not committed. He's not assassinated a sitting president or vice president.
True, that has not been completed.
Does he have documents? I mean, does he have plans for this? Obviously, lawyer-client confidentiality.
It would breach my confidentiality to tell you about the plans he has in motion. That's true.
Well, we'll let the Secret Service handle that. Now, you've had a break with the ACLU. You were very prominent with them, and this really led you to split with them. Was this on your terms or their terms?
It was mutual, as they say, as one party often says. No, it was them. They kicked me out. I guess free speech only goes so far, huh? Good enough for the KKK, not good enough for me. That's what the ACLU said.
So, why do you think the ACLU is, sort of taking the stance that this is not protected speech?
Well, I made some very harsh representations that the ACLU totally loved murder at the beginning of this trial, and I think they made up like it.
Oh. Well, does the ACLU totally love murder?
They love your right to murder, but they do not love murder itself.
Oh. That's tough.
Yeah, I didn't make that distinction, and they got mad, and blah, blah, blah. You know how it is.
I do. That's why I'm not on NPR right now.
That's right. Could you murder?
No, I said.
Because you like murder.
I said that NPR likes murder. You understand.
I understand.
Mixed up the words. Now then, you've talked with Harrison. How would you describe him as a person?
Very deep thinker. You look into his eyes and you know there's something back there. Just waiting to get out.
Oh,
You don't want that to get out. At least not when you're around.
but you'd want him to get out.
I want him to get out just to see what happens. It's a story. All the life is a story. All the world is a stage. Didn't someone say that once?
William Shakespeare.
Ah, smart man.
Yes.
Smart man. He murdered a man in his day.
Well, some argue that it was Francis Bacon.
That's who Shakespeare murdered?
No, some people argue that Francis Bacon wrote all of Shakespeare's plays, and I assume did his murdering.
Ah, well, whoever had that smart word. Let me apply to our friend here, Mr. Harrison. And I wish him all the best. Look, I don't understand all types of art, Rothko, it looks like squares, right? Some people, murder, it's an art. Who am I to say? I guess I am saying. But who is the judge to say?
A judge and
Sure.
the jury as well.
Sure.
Now, a lot of people have been sort of unfairly comparing Harrison to, comic book villains, such as the Joker.
Yeah.
Sort of performance crime. Do you think that he falls into that category?
I don't think so. First of all, he's a real person, not a drawing.
Yes.
I'd say that's the primary difference. But also, the Joker has kind of an overarching ethos, a message he's trying to get out about something very specific, something that's wronged him, I think. I'm not big into comic books, but I know there's guys like Calendar Man who literally murder people day by day by day.
Yeah.
Right? I guess he's kind of a lot like that. I kind of like Calendar Man. Except instead of murders on days, he just wants to commit every crime possible.
Yes.
And hopefully while murdering.
Now, obviously, it would be somewhat untenable to try to commit, crimes that are specific to states. Has he dabbled in that at all? I mean, is there anything in his notes where he tried to commit specific state crimes?
He tried doing that on at a director level, and that wasn't really a match for his interests. He doesn't like directing other people. He likes being in charge of himself.
Right.
But he doesn't like having to rely on the, shall we say, mail fraud of others.
Right.
To solve the mail fraud that he wants to commit in his heart.
So he's not franchising anytime soon?
Not yet, no.
Does he have a gang? I mean, henchmen? I mean, obviously he's not, but...
He has support staff.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
There's a lot to keep track of.
Right.
Which crimes have we committed? Which do we have we been, a drug crime is very complicated there are many different levels that are based almost entirely on how much you have.
Right.
So it's very hard to be caught with 1 ounce, and then with 2 ounces, and then with 16 pounds.
Right.
You have to remember what you have and make sure you're getting caught by different police officers and blah, 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 blah.
And you have been a real advocate to make sure that his crimes are reflected in such, because I know that there's a small quantity of marijuana that actually bumped up to intent to sell, and it was you had to really try to make that distinction.
I did. I've had to do it both ways. I had to knock it down, and I've been also told that I was the first attorney to argue in favor for increased charges for his client. Yeah. There was one time where I had to explain very carefully that he had been planning to murder this person for a very long time. It was very clearly premeditated.
Right.
It wasn't a simple crime of passion. He'd already done that.
Yes. Well, my final question is, what do you think your chances are for getting Harrison Lawrence?
Well, I'm not confident, shall we say. But the good news is there are many, many, many crimes you can commit while in prison.
Well, Good to know. Dr. Sullivan, thank you so much.
Actual support for People of Interest is brought to you by Philly Improv Theater, Philly's home for comedy. In addition to shows every week of the year, PHIT offers classes in improv, sketch, and stand-up. For more information, visit phillyimprovtheater.com.